Halifax Explosion. On the morning of December 6, 1917, a French munition ship SS Mont Blanc collided with a Norwegian vessel SS Imo in Halifax Harbor. What began as a routine maritime traffic dispute escalated into one of the most catastrophic industrial explosions in history. The Mont Blanc, laden with explosive cargo, including TNT and picric acid, caught fire, and 20 minutes later, the ship detonated. The blast obliterated the Richmond district, shattering buildings, throwing ships onto dry land, and generating a shockwave felt for hundreds of kilometers. 1,782 people were killed, over 9,000 injured, and the 12-meter tsunami followed moments after the explosion. Economic losses exceeded $600 million in today's value, and Halifax became a global case study in port safety. The disaster reshaped maritime traffic laws and led to strict international regulations for transporting hazardous cargo, lessons written in fire across an entire city. Texas City disaster. On April 16, 1947, a fire broke out aboard the SS Grand Camp while it was docked in Texas City, loaded with ammonium nitrate fertilizer. Crowds gathered to watch the firefighters battle the blaze. Then, at 9:12 a.m., the ship vaporized in a colossal explosion. The blast destroyed the port, ignited nearby refineries, and launched a 2-ton anchor more than a kilometer inland. 581 people died and over 5,000 were injured, making it the deadliest industrial accident in U.S. history. The economic toll surpassed $1 billion, crippling the city's industrial base. The disaster led to sweeping reforms in chemical storage, fire safety, and federal disaster response, and remains a haunting reminder that even ordinary cargo can become catastrophic under the wrong conditions. Opao explosion. On September 21, 1921, workers at the BASF chemical plant in Opao were clearing hardened ammonium nitrate and sulfate from a storage silo, using small explosive charges, a routine but dangerously misguided practice. This time, the mixture detonated with devastating force. The explosion carved a 90-meter wide crater, leveled surrounding buildings, and destroyed half the town. 561 people were killed, thousands injured, and more than 7,500 residents were left homeless. Estimated losses exceeded $500 million today, and the tragedy forever changed how industrial chemicals are stored and handled. Oppo became a defining example of how everyday factory procedures done improperly can trigger disaster on a city-wide scale. Flixborough disaster. On June 1, 1974, a temporary pipe modification at the Nipro chemical plant in Flixborough caused a cyclohexane leak, a highly flammable industrial solvent. Within minutes, a massive vapor cloud formed around the plant. At 4:53 p.m., the cloud ignited. The explosion flattened the facility, hurled debris miles away, and ignited fires visible across Lincolnshire. 28 workers died, and hundreds of nearby homes and shops were damaged. Economic losses exceeded $2 billion. Investigations revealed severe gaps in engineering oversight and plant design, leading to new safety standards across Britain and Europe. Flixborough became a cornerstone event in global chemical safety regulation. Guadalajara explosions. On April 22, 1992, gasoline leaking from a Pemex pipeline seeped into the sewer network beneath Guadalajara's Reforma district. Residents complained of fumes for days, but no evacuation was ordered. Just after 10 a.m., the ground erupted. A chain of explosions ripped through 8 kilometers of streets, launching pavement slabs into the air and collapsing entire blocks. 252 people died, more than 500 were injured, and 15,000 residents were displaced. Economic losses exceeded $1 billion, and Mexico overhauled its urban pipeline monitoring systems. The tragedy remains a reminder that some of the deadliest explosions happen out of sight, beneath the very streets people walk on. AZF factory explosion. On September 21, 2001, 300 tons of ammonium nitrate stored at the AZF chemical plant in Tolo detonated without warning. The explosion carved a massive crater, shattered windows across the city, and shook buildings up to 7 kilometers away. 31 people were killed, over 2,500 injured, and tens of thousands of homes suffered damage. Many residents believed the city had been bombed. The economic cost reached $2.5 billion, making it one of Europe's most expensive industrial accidents. The disaster led to strict French regulations on chemical storage and remains a defining case study in urban industrial risk. Shenzhen explosions. Late on August 12, 2015, illegal storage of hazardous chemicals at the Shenzhen port triggered a sequence of explosions captured by cameras around the world. The second blast, equivalent to 450 tons of TNT, sent a fireball soaring into the sky and a shockwave that shattered windows for miles. 173 people were killed, including many firefighters, and more than 700 were injured. Satellite imagery captured scorch marks across the blast zone. Economic losses surpassed $8 billion, and China launched a national crackdown on hazardous material facilities. Shenzhen remains one of the most visually iconic industrial explosions of the 21st century, a symbol of negligence on a monumental scale. Chernobyl disaster. On April 26, 1986, a flawed safety test at reactor number 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant spiraled out of control. A steam explosion followed by a hydrogen explosion ripped the reactor apart and launched radioactive fuel into the atmosphere. 31 workers and firefighters died in the immediate aftermath, but the long-term deaths from radiation exposure number in the thousands. Entire towns were evacuated, leaving the Chernobyl exclusion zone, one of the world's most infamous wastelands. Economic losses exceed $200 billion when factoring in cleanup, resettlement, and medical costs. Chernobyl reshaped nuclear policy worldwide and remains the most studied industrial disaster ever recorded. Fukushima Daiichi meltdown. On March 11, 2011, powerful tsunami struck Japan's northeast coast, overwhelming the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Seawater flooded emergency generators, disabling cooling systems and triggering meltdowns in 3 reactors. Radioactive contamination forced the evacuation of over 150,000 people, creating long-term exclusion zones. While there were no immediate explosion deaths at the plant, the economic and societal toll has been immense, exceeding $200 billion. Fukushima exposed vulnerabilities in nuclear plants facing natural disasters and prompted a global re-evaluation of reactor safety standards. Deepwater Horizon explosion. On April 20, 2010, a blowout at BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig caused a massive explosion that killed 11 workers and ignited the largest marine oil spill in history. The rig burned for 36 hours before sinking beneath the Gulf. For 87 days, nearly 5 million barrels of oil spilled into the sea, devastating ecosystems and fishing industries across the region. Economic losses exceeded $60 billion, making Deepwater Horizon the costliest environmental industrial disaster in U.S. history. It led to far stricter offshore drilling regulations and remains a symbol of corporate negligence and environmental vulnerability. Bhopal gas tragedy. On the night of December 2 to 3, 1984, water entered a storage tank at the Union Carbide pesticide plant in Bhopal, triggering a runaway chemical reaction. 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas leaked into the surrounding neighborhoods. Residents woke up choking as a toxic cloud silently swept through the city. More than 15,000 people died, with hundreds of thousands injured. The deadliest industrial accident in human history. The economic impact remains incalculable, with ongoing health, environmental, and social consequences. Bhopal transformed international chemical safety laws and remains a sobering symbol of industrial injustice. Port of Beirut explosion. On August 4, 2020, 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate stored improperly in a warehouse at Beirut's port ignited. The resulting blast was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions ever recorded. A massive pressure wave ripped through the city, shattering buildings, overturning cars, and flattening blocks for kilometers. 218 people were killed, 7,000 injured, and 300,000 left homeless. Economic losses exceeded $15 billion, plunging Lebanon into deeper crisis. The explosion sparked global outrage over systemic negligence and highlighted the catastrophic dangers of mismanaged industrial materials. Beirut's blast stands as one of the 21st century's defining tragedies, a brutal reminder that one warehouse of chemicals can destroy an entire capital.